Hey, good morning. This is Brenda Meller bringing you back for another slice of social media pie. And this is my LinkedIn Live series where I bring on inspiring people, that's the P, to inform and educate you. And today I have with me Steve Nudelberg. Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Brenda. Thanks for having me this morning. I love seeing all the pink in your background. Very nice.
Hey, we got to have fun and it's on brand for me. Pink is part of my brand color. Just like the t-shirt you're wearing right now. I think it says Daily Huddle. That's part of your brand, right, Steve?
That is part of our daily huddle is live on LinkedIn just before this. So using the tools to spread the gospel as you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say good morning and welcome to you, Steve, and to the rest of our viewing audience. And whether you're watching this live or in playback, I'd love it if you could drop a comment below. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And as we get into the conversation a little bit later on, we'll have some opportunity for Q&A as well. And I always tell our audience, Steve, the leaving a comment is kind of like me doing like the mic tap. Hey, is this thing working? Can you guys hear the live stream? Is it pulling up? Because sometimes between StreamYard and LinkedIn, a baton is dropped, and we don't know if it's LinkedIn didn't pick it up or if a StreamYard didn't push it over. But when that happens, I like to make sure there's an alternative way for people to watch it, whether it's YouTube or elsewhere. I did get a notification in my background that the live stream is working, and I'll just encourage people, don't be shy. Drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from, or you could just say hi or good morning if you feel more comfortable doing so. But we're going to get into a conversation today, and you can see the topic right above us here, guys. We're going to be talking about modernizing the sales process. And Steve, I've been inviting to this people to this event, and I actually had a couple people message me this morning saying, I can't watch it. Are you going to record it? Because I'm really interested in the topic. Wow. So I think this is definitely something top of mind for people. Before we jump into that conversation, though, I want to talk about you and I, and we met through LinkedIn, right? Never met each other in person, right. But you're one of those people for me. I felt like you're familiar, and I started going back through our messaging history, and we connected a few years ago. And over the past few months, and I think it's probably because I'm walking my dog at this certain time of day, 8 a.m., I get a pop-up notification. Steve Nudelberg is live in the Daily Huddle, and I've started watching your show, really getting to know you. So why don't you take a few minutes and describe for the audience that's watching who you are, what you do, and maybe tell us a little bit more about why we should watch that Daily Huddle.
Thank you for the opportunity. And clearly, one of the ways to modernize your approach is to have relationships with people that you've never physically been in a room with. So we're pure validation of why it works. Mm-hmm. We never shook hands, but we sort of have a familiarity with each other. So who am I? I've been in business for 40 plus years, which is hard to believe. Just celebrated my 62nd birthday. And so I've seen the shift in the way business is done, in the way buyers have changed their attitudes. And yet some people are still stuck in the world as it was. We all experienced this earthquake called the pandemic, and some people got stuck and some people innovated and say, okay, if this is the rules changed, let me go do that. So it was very empowering for me to take what I know from before, marry it to the tools that are available to us now, and build a process that enables people to meet people at scale. So all of us have been to a networking event, and the idea of going to a networking event, if you've been to one recently, everybody laughs. There's people just passing out cards, and there's no meaning.
Do they still do that? Like post-pandemic, are we still doing cards, or has that changed at all?
Crazy. There's no meaningful connection. The time people are always looking for, somebody else in the room. Who should I be meeting? I look at the virtual world as a gigantic networking event that allows you to understand who people are before you connect. So I sold my last business 8 years ago, kind of started toying with this LinkedIn thing. And it was fascinating to me that this tool is all about not necessarily who you know, but who they know. And I was like, wait a minute. In most of my companies, I had a very large advertising budget. Advertising was 1-to-1. I wanted your eyeballs. Couldn't guarantee that anybody else saw that. All the world that we're living in now is about connectivity, beyond that second degree. And I was fascinated by it, studied it, learned it, wrote a book called Confessions of a Serial Salesman. Great. Everybody put me on the speakers tour. I was speaking in this advanced state with zero adoption. It was hilarious. People would say, wow, what a great speaker, such great energy, you're great. Didn't do one thing I asked them to do. And then the door got shut for the pandemic, and they all came running saying, wow, what do we do? Right. So the Daily Huddle is a product of the years and years of people that I had been connected to who said, dude, we're lost. What do we do? And we had a plan, gave them a plan. It's very process driven. So is my book. So is my entire career. It's all about daily habits and, getting better every day, not this massive swings in activity. Yeah. And we started the Daily Huddle. I had LinkedIn Live for quite a bit of time, but just didn't understand why somebody would stop their day to listen, pitch something about my business. The Daily Huddle was a way to have a sales meeting in the morning that basically gathered a tribe, gives them real good content, music, sports, entertainment, and content about living your best life. So we started it, 2 years ago. We have thousands and thousands of followers. It's so much fun. And we do it every single day. We do it for 22 minutes, 7:58 to 8:22. And the feedback we get is what drives us. I do it with my son. My son is the president of our firm. He spent 14 years as a college football coach. So I think people are attracted to the family dynamic. I think they're attracted to the content. And it's a place to kick your ass in the day, start the day. That's true.
Now, that's something I knew. I thought it was 8 a.m. and I always would pop on a couple minutes before 8 to try to catch you. So you start at 7:58 and it goes at 8:22. And it's always it's very, it's a tight time frame. It's not 3 hours long. It's like you come in and it's entertaining, as you said. And I always find, the variety of guests and the topics, it's a great listen to. But every day, you're a machine, Steve. I mean, that takes a lot to produce a show like that every day. So it sounds like a really amazing process.
It actually, it's really not, because the fascination with content creation is really documenting your life. There's so much going on with us, people that we're speaking to, people that we're engaged with, other clients and their problems. We just take, what is the thought of the day. We have a very formatted process in terms of how we program the show. So you fill in the slots. The show notes have to be in at 6 p.m. the night before.
I was going to say, how far in advance is it planned? Is it just like the day before that you're like, this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow then?
We talk about national days. It's National Peanut Butter Day or National Hamburger Day or National Read a Book Day. So we're very into birthdays, very into national days, and just real, what are people talking about? This morning on the show, we talked about Becky Hammond, who is the coach that just won, her journey from player to assistant coach in the NBA to head coach. Fantastic journey about obstacles and commitment and desire. So we went the whole show talking about her and we have great engagement. People really help us drive the content.
Well, good. Well, I'll remind people to go to, follow Steve on LinkedIn and you'll get notifications of his show. But I want to shift gears and I want to get into our topic for today. And we're going to be talking about modernizing your sales process. And, Steve, I in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit and I said, well, what you do is you train sales teams, right? And you said, no, actually. And I want you to, kind of tie that in as we're talking about this conversation, modernizing your sales process. So is this something that can apply to teams, or is this to sales leaders, or tell us a little bit about that?
Fundamentally, what our organization does is help people get better. We believe in that 1% mentality. If you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, you should. It's the number one selling book in the world. I'll actually be with James Clear in Nashville in 2 weeks. He's a fabulous guy, fabulous author, but it breaks down things into compounding behaviors. So I've always done that in my career. That's what my book was. In this case, it's just paying attention to what you can do to get better. So it could be the CEO. I think the fish stinks from the head down. If you have a CEO who's not alert, not aware, not communicative, not listening, you're going to have trouble with your teams. Conversely, I think if a CEO invests his time and effort and money into getting better, that's a seed that is a cultural thing where everybody gets behind it. Look at the CEO. I think a lot of people push coaching and training down on people instead of embracing it with them. So our roster of clients is teams, it's individuals, CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, all who have a commitment to get better. One of the payoffs is revenue production. I'm a pipeline guy, always have been. The businesses I have bought and sold, the way I gauge success is pipeline. Can't control who buys or when they buy. And so a healthy company has very, very strong pipeline development. We do it ourselves. We teach people how to do that. And when you help people make money, they generally keep you around. So,
right. And they probably refer business to you as well. And I would imagine, I mean, going back to what you talked about earlier, having a strong network and the whole power of LinkedIn really amplifying your reach and reaching more people that you've never even met before. I have to imagine, Steve, that I don't say most or many of your clients are probably coming to you by way of referral. I heard about you, and then you're not having to sell to them. Is that a fair assessment?
So we do not in any of our content teach pitching. As a matter of fact, decision making is at the bottom of our funnel. Most coaching and training talks about outcomes. We talk about behaviors. So we create the right behaviors done consistently over a period of time. The outcomes take care of themselves. So there is no selling, no pitching, very little of that pressure. Most people spend time trying to convince the other party to buy something. There is none of that.
So I got to ask, because you say pitching and it immediately makes me think of the people on LinkedIn, and I probably got a handful in my inbox now and in my invitations that are the pitching in the invitations, or you accept it and they immediately pitch in the Calendly, or I get the emails, and they're all kind of the same formula. So, when I think about sales, that's immediately what comes top of mind. And when I saw your topic, today talking about modernizing the sales process, I'm like, good. We're not talking about the old way, right?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, we just had this big conversation about cold calling, and the idea that I ask decision makers all the time. I just spoke at an event in Atlanta. There was 150 CEOs in the audience. And I said, if I found your phone number, would anybody in the room answer the phone? Not one hand went up. I said, yet all of you will leave this conference and go back and endorse a cold calling strategy for your sales team. Nobody's answering the phone, number one. And number two is you put yourself at a disadvantage with the person that you're trying to talk to because you've caught them off guard. Like when people thought that was a good strategy. Our strategy is not closing deals, opening relationships. If you open relationships at scale, the right people will raise their hand and say, I'm interested in learning more about that. I have a problem. Maybe you can solve it. So we're fortunate that within our 90-day program, we guarantee the pipeline development. We guarantee opportunity, not sales. So I think that's what modernizing it is, changing the language. I mean, salespeople use the word prospecting. It sounds like a clinical thing that you go to the doctor and, are you ready for your prospecting?
Right.
So most of the large deals that we're involved in started with a conversation about where I'm from, what teams I do, what school I went to. And so it's much easier to take the sales mentality out of it and build a process that says, if I can make a certain number of qualified relationships every day, and I can offer value to that audience, which is what the Daily Huddle is. We have people reach out to us with questions all the time. We answer the questions. We give lots of stuff. Shows like this, I'm not hiding anything. I'm not, hey, here's a little nugget, and then I'll sell you something. if you never, ever buy from me, but I did something good for you, someone in your network will. And if you understand the numbers, they're dramatic. They're just unconscionable what can happen globally, 24 hours, so there's no time boundaries. It's fascinating. As a student of the game, I was that guy that would sit down with somebody. They would tell me a little bit about their business, and I would go, you should meet my friend or my client because you guys could probably do business together.
Right.
And the prospect would look at me and go, what just happened?
Yeah, wait a minute. Weren't you going to sell to me? What happened, right?
And I don't do that. And we teach people, really a great opener is, who can I introduce you to? I have a great network. Most people on LinkedIn have somewhere between 500 and 1,000 connections. That's an average.
Right.
Somebody in that audience will be of value to you. And if I'm willing to make that introduction, you will remember me forever.
So I got to ask a question, because LinkedIn now has this feature, Steve, where you can go into your messages and you can do a message introduction. And if you're connected with me and you're connected with Paige, you can introduce us to each other. Do you request permission before doing that, or do you just put two people in a chat together?
Always. So, it's really funny that you said that.
Yeah.
One of the pieces of content I developed was there's certain things we learned in kindergarten that adults we forgot. In kindergarten, and when you were a kid growing up, you didn't get anything without asking permission. Mom, can I do this? Dad, can I do this? Teacher, can I do that? All of a sudden, as adults, we threw that out and we just sail into stuff. When you ask somebody's permission to speak about anything, before I'll tell you one thing about my business, even if you're inquiring, I'll say, Brenda, do I have permission to go down this road? Do you want to talk about this? Once they do that, the whole kimono is open. It's none of this guarded, I'm going to be sold, I'm going to be so, the idea that salespeople were trained to go get the business is just flawed. It's just flawed. People are creating friction where there shouldn't be. The tools now, like my introductions, are only made in video. I'll speak to you. Hey, Brenda, I have somebody I think you should meet. Great. Look out for a video introduction. And I'll go, Brenda, I want you to meet Shay. Boom. The two of you have synergies. Here's what I think you should talk about, but you're copied above. Go do it. And people go, wow, that was unbelievable. So showing up different, even on these normal mundane activities, is so much more fun, so much more social. It's supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be cool. You and I have never sat next to each other, yet here we are sitting next to each other.
Virtually, right? And don't you, I for the viewing audience, whether you're watching this live or in playback, don't you feel like you're getting to know Steve on a personal level, where you're getting to know his personality and kind of what drives him and his motivations and things like that? So then, if and when the opportunity exists someday for you to refer business to Steve, you probably will, because what do they say? People do business with individuals they know, like, and trust. Correct. And I feel like there's so many people, Steve, that skip that process of building trust and they go right for the pitch. Let me show you a demo. Let's book a Calendly. They move right onto it. And I'm like, I didn't even say I'm interested in anything. And I've started doing this technique lately, where if people pitch me in an invitation, I pitch them back and I say, thanks for reaching out. Are you looking at help with your LinkedIn approach? I have some advice for you. And I'm waiting for responses on that.
Yeah.
But to your point, I have fun with it, right?
That's great. It's like Seinfeld. When he gets a cold call, he calls the guy back. He goes, oh, we can't accept calls. Now you get the message.
Right. Now you get it, right?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
This happened to my son the other day. He was interested in a solar panel. He spoke to the salesperson. Salesperson was presented really well. 8:30 at night, there's a knock on the door, and it's the sales guy. And my son went ballistic, said, well, who is teaching you to do this? Oh, our sales manager said at the end of the day, go around and knock on all the doors.
And physically intrusive. Knocked on the door. That is unheard of.
Unheard of. It's intrusive. Yeah. So I put all the blame on sales leadership. There was no trust with, listen, the whole idea that you needed to be at your desk to be good at developing new business was flawed. That was the weakness of sales management and sales leadership. COVID proved, hey, if you produce whatever you produce, I'll judge you on results.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people who work more effectively outside of a manager who is only interested in numbers. We are not, our metrics for how we manage people in the biz dev space are very different than the outcome. We manage daily behaviors. If you work out, you go to the gym, you don't measure yourself the first day and go, wow, I have a six-pack abs.
Right.
You measure by the activities you do every day,
right?
The consistency of doing that. And if you're willing to do the work over a period of time, I think it's 90 days, it flips and you never go back. You just keep doing those activities. So
you just gave me a really brilliant idea too, Steve. These people that are cold pitching me or getting these emails from them, I think I'm going to start replying back and say to them, it sounds like your manager is measuring you on leads that you're trying to generate. You might want to talk to Steve Nudelberg. Here's his website.
So, I mean, it's, we're focused on, developing people, teaching them the right habits every day. And habits are not only about sales, life habits. When you wake up, what you eat, what you watch, what you listen to, those are all part of your diet. And people who get up and watch the news every day are just dousing themselves with negativity and then expect to go be a positive influence in the world. If you look at all the successful people in the world, they have routines, solid morning routines, daily routines, evening routines. And if you focus on that behavior, it's like a no-brainer. The first rule in my book is wake up early. I learned early on, paying attention to all the successful people I saw. I'd ask them a question, what time do you get up? And it was early. Now, early is nebulous. I get up at 3:30 every day, but I've been doing
that. What time do you go to bed if you're getting up at 3:30?
That's the number one question that I get asked.
Yeah.
The reality is I go to sleep when I'm tired. I eat when I'm hungry. Most people, like, especially in sales, Tuesday, it's Taco Tuesday. We got to go to lunch. They're more focused on lunch than they are on productivity.
Right.
What happens when you eat lunch? Your energy level
exactly.
So, so for me, it's a combination of mind, body, spirit, faith, all of those things that help people be successful on whatever they want to do. The challenge with work environments is the leadership is only interested in what's in it for them. I need to hit this number and I need you to hit that number so I can hit my number. That's what the Great Resignation was. It was people saying, I'm not going to work for an asshole anymore.
And you remind me, Steve, too. I mean, when I used to work in corporate America, and it's funny because it's like we teach these things in business schools. How have leaders and managers not figured this out? There's leaders that lead with fear and intimidation, and I would also put into that category and old sales methods.
Correct.
Based on this conversation. And there's leaders that lead with understanding, motivations, leading with humanity, understanding the big picture and bringing people into the why equation. And I would also layer in there now, modernizing the sales process, right?
So we think it's fundamental. Everybody's selling, whether you realize it or not. Everybody has a brand. The reality is, whether you like it or not, you have the opportunity to control the narrative now, like never before. So, I was dealing with this insurance company the other day, and they were experiencing a problem that their competition was saying bad things about them. I said, first of all, it's not a strategy I would endorse. I think that, thank you for putting my name in there. If you're bashing me, it's great. People didn't know me, now know me. But the reality is you can control the dialogue by telling your story. That's part of modernizing the approach, is that the product is no longer the actual product, service, or price. It's you. You're the product. People make a very fundamental decision in the sales process up front. I like you or I don't like you. If you didn't like me, there's no shot I'm on your podcast. I don't take offense to that. It's reality.
Right.
Never
And
in my
similarly, I mean, what you thought of me, I mean, we had never talked. We had messaged back and forth a few times, but we, never really interacted. And I reached out to you on a whim and I was like, hey, do you want to? I was a little intimidated. I'm like, I don't know, is he going to want to be on my show? And I reached out to you and it was like within minutes, if not hours, you said, sure, send me your scheduling link and let's get it on. But it's the same thing. It's like we've already made those associations because of our past dealings. And I think it was pretty clear to me. I knew I could have you on the show and it wouldn't feel like it was a sales pitch. I think there was going to be some value that was coming forward. And for you, you're like, yeah, she's a quality person. I'll spend my time because we only have 24 hours in a day and you're dedicating a part of that. And I appreciate that, Steve. You're dedicating a part of your time to take that opportunity with me. And I think we're all making those decisions, right?
And so if your day is made up of those kind of decisions, you have a choice on who you tend to interact with. The sales community tends to interact with people they don't like, they don't enjoy, which is why people burn out all the time. It's like, oh, I hate my clients, but I love my clients. Whether they continue with me or not, we become friends. I was just in Napa Valley with a CEO of an insurance company who lives in Sacramento. He came inbound during the pandemic. He had heard about me through social media. We developed a coaching relationship. And I told him in one of our coaching calls, hey, I'm heading out to Napa. He goes, that's only an hour and a half from where I am. Would you mind if we crashed the party? And I go, dude, that would be amazing. We went, risk, but we said Sunday of our trip, we'll dedicate to you guys. Now we're planning another trip because him and his wife were just lovely and great. And we already knew what kind of people we were. Why wouldn't it transfer? So this is another thing. People ask me all the time, what's the difference between business relationships and friendships? And they have a whole laundry list of things. And I go, nothing. They're the same. If you make a lot of friends, your friends go out of their way to help you. Okay. I want to own in people's mind that if you have a challenge that relates to growing your business, you can call me. You can come inbound and say, I got a question. I got a thought. Can you unpack this for me? And I will. Why wouldn't I? You know? And I love this because I was a product guy a lot of my life. When you walk in the supermarket, if they want to sell you a new ice cream, there's someone sitting there going, here, take a taste.
Take a sample, right? Yeah.
Here you go, man. Do you like it? Oh, that's good. I'll buy more of that. Why doesn't everybody do that? The daily huddle is a sample. You either like what we do, who we are, all of that stuff, or you don't. And I am way okay if you don't. If you make a decision, I don't do business with bald guys, great. I want to know up front. I don't want to waste my time doing stuff.
Right?
It's okay.
I had to I'm like, did he just say bald guys? I was like, wait, yeah, he did. Got to go with it, right?
But here's the thing. Most people spend their time trying to force that.
Yeah.
I'm a realist and say, I'm going to control what I can control. I can't control if somebody likes me. I can't control if somebody buys me. That's the most hysterical thing in the world. When I go to these sales meetings and someone says, I want you to close that deal today. I say to them, that's the easiest way to get fired because they have no control. What happens if they decide to do it next month? Is that bad? You just made it bad because you want them to close today. We don't spend time closing. We spend time opening.
You put an artificial deadline in that's not reflective of the actual sales process, which is don't you find too that I don't want to say the older we get, but like the more experience rich we become, Steve, isn't it easier to look back and to kind of see the bigger picture of all these dots start connecting with each other and you understand the power of relationships and it all starts to make sense. Whereas probably in the beginning of your career, you were trying a lot of techniques and it's almost like the cartoon character that's swinging at the air and never hitting anything, right?
So it's funny for me, and this is what made me the outlier. I love the people side of it. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. We talk this stuff all the time. So for me, I would just ask people, hey, what's your story? I want to learn. How did you do what you do, with who? And you hear these fascinating stories. You learn, you become friends. They go out of their way. And the next thing you know, they're referring you. So I was the outlier early on. The modernizing approach is there were three ways that businesses actually grew. You can
Mhm.
knock on a door. Thank you,
Mhm.
COVID. Those days are over. I can't imagine. Now, you're in Detroit. Somebody
Yep.
just popped in from Chicago, right? I live in Florida. When you knock on doors, you got to deal with weather. It's either
Right.
cold or hot or whatever. I'm like, thank you. No, you could use the phone.
Mhm.
And Microsoft did a report of the billions of sales calls that are made every day, which go to voicemail and don't get returned, or email. Those are the three ways that people use to outbound go get business:
Yep.
knocking on doors, voicemail, and email. Statistically, you have less than 5% on any of those of getting any traction. Why
Mhm.
would people continue to do that? Those tools are 50 plus years old. We have
Right.
all new tools. We have text, we have video, we have LinkedIn and all social
Mhm.
media. You have emojis, GIFs. There are CEOs I have conversations with, no words. It's all GIFs back and forth. And it's like this GIF war where we're cracking up, making memorable conversations, and so the thing is if you get good at this, which you should, it's not hard, it's paying attention to the rules.
Mhm.
The idea that all of it starts with commonalities. Aflac is a big client of ours. The
Mhm.
way I came in contact with their president was he posted something on social media about being a Jet fan. It was a Monday morning. The Jets had lost, which they always do. I'm a lifelong Jet fan. I curse my dad and my grandfather for that. But the reality is, I reached out to him and I said, only another Jet fan could understand that misery. He
Mm.
cracked up. We created some dialogue. We wound up doing our virtual thing. Our virtual thing went to in person. They're not
Mhm.
only our biggest client, we, at the beginning of this year, opened an Aflac agency with their help.
Wow.
So that's what my younger son runs. It's always about the people, never about what their product or service is. And people lose sight of that. They're
Mhm.
looking to hunt logos. I'm hunting people. I'm making
Right.
friends.
I love it. And when you mentioned LinkedIn, you talked about hunting people. I want to kind of give you the floor to offer advice. There's a lot of people that are doing sales wrong on LinkedIn. If you could offer a piece of advice to people on how to use LinkedIn more effectively, if they're trying to build relationships, if we're going to the subject of modernizing the sales
Mhm.
process, what's that advice that you would offer to them?
Who you are matters
Mhm.
more than what you do. So
Mhm.
I'll give you that in real terms. Most people walk into a party and go, I'm the VP of sales for XYZ company, right? I walk in and I go, I love to drink tequila. Who do you think has more friends at the end of the party? And all those people find out what I do in a whole
Mhm.
different setting. It's just this framework of, and I use lots of analogies to drive that point home. If we were standing in line at Starbucks, which
Right.
basically LinkedIn is a Starbucks, it's just
Yeah.
people hanging out.
Mhm.
If the person in front of you was talking about something in Detroit, would you knock on their shoulder and say, hey, can I help you with your LinkedIn?
Right. Speaking of LinkedIn, let me help you.
Like you would talk about, oh, you're from Detroit? I'm
Right.
from Detroit. What's your favorite team? What's your favorite restaurant? What school do you? There's so much connectivity that happens without any pressure, but
Mhm.
most people go right to what they do. Just tell
Right.
me who you are. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're an introvert, great, be an introvert. Be genuine and authentic, and the right people will come to you about cars, about boats, about food, travel, whatever you're passionate about. There are
Mhm.
other people who are passionate about that. That's how you build your tribe. The fun
Mhm.
part about LinkedIn is every person that comes in gets multiplied by all the people they know. And
Right.
that's how you grow your presence, and people just don't get it. I mean, I saw, and this is a true story. The guy that used to live next door to me is in the insurance business, the
Mhm.
financial services business. And I got a LinkedIn request from him as if we were strangers. And I reached
There we
out to him and said, Chuck, you look like a moron. Brother, what are you doing? He goes, oh, they have us using some AI thing where they're sending out 50 of these things every day. And
Oh,
so here's the thing. You want to be lazy, you get lazy results. You want to
right.
be, so
I'm pulling up your LinkedIn as you're talking about your LinkedIn right now, and I noticed that you changed your profile picture because it was like a headshot. And now that's you, and it's Jets, isn't it? Is that what it says on the helmet? It's you and Jets. So what's the backstory behind that picture? Because it looks like your head was put on the body.
We can have fun. The minute I changed it, I changed the dialogue from everybody on LinkedIn having this, glamour shot to me having fun with it. That's me in a Jet helmet, in a Jet uniform. We've used basic Photoshop, and it's a conversation piece. Like if you came in and you asked, hey, what's the deal with the photo? That's a great icebreaker for us to get to know each other, which people don't understand. They're all talking about like their billboard is usually their company logo. It's not who you are, so people are used to are driving their impressions by some false thing. This is fun. It's football season. Everybody's paying attention to football, college, pro. So it has driven and stirred the pot with my existing clients and friends and people new coming in, because have you seen that in anybody else's profile?
I don't think I have. And I the first time I visited, when I saw that it had refreshed, it was between the time that I had booked you in today's show, because I got your headshot photo to put in my clips. Do you have a video on that too, or is that just
if you scroll over it, there should be a video. Yeah.
Okay. So if I think if I refresh the page, right? Is that how it works now?
And then scroll over it.
Do you have to hover over the video for it to play? It's
not playing. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah, it should be working.
I've got the cover video too, and I know how this works, but the beauty of LinkedIn, Steve, is that LinkedIn's always tweaking and changing things, and they don't tell us what they change. So we got to try different stuff. But there is a way that you can watch. Oh, it looks like I have to click on it.
If you've ever,
I'm not going to play this right now. I'll tell people to go back to Steve's profile and check out that video a little bit later.
Here's the other thing. Early on, if you look at most people's under their name, they use that to say the title of what they do.
The job title at company.
But mine is not. I noticed in LinkedIn, everybody's a coach. I'm a financial coach. I'm a life coach. I'm everything. Everybody's a coach. I said, if everybody's coaching, who's doing? So I put up sales doer. I get more inquiries from people who say, we really need a sales doer. Can we have a conversation? So, because everything I teach, everything I practice, I do. I do it myself, and I can show them my calendar. I can show them how I prospect. Prospecting's fun. It's just building relationships is fun. So if you show people, it's very different than in the old days. People would get trained to be a coach, and they have a curriculum that they work on. We don't have a curriculum. We're real time, sitting in the driver's seat with you, going, here's what's urgent. Here's what we need to take care of. And so all of this is foundational, but most people do it, I don't say wrong, they do it different.
Right. But that's what you're here for, is to help them with that. Yeah. And I'm going to start to round up our conversation here today. And since we have your LinkedIn rather up on screen here, Steve, are you open to accepting new connections? And do you have any instructions for people if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, I think it's the most crucial part of LinkedIn. Most invites come without a note, which if you took that into the real world, would you just walk up? Would I walk up to you, Brenda? I didn't know you. You're a total stranger, and go, hey, let's connect. Whoa, slow down. So I think every invite should have a note. It doesn't. I know how to send somebody a message prior to connecting with them. And that simple message is, hey, Brenda, thanks for the invite. Can you remind me how we know each other?
Right.
Or what prompted you to connect? If you do not answer that in 3 days, I delete you. You don't know it. Just I don't accept you. So I have 14,000 connections that I have had an upfront dialogue with. I've deleted probably 50,000, and I'm okay with that. I want the people who are part of my tribe to want to be part of my tribe. And if you can't answer me in 3 days, it's not worth it to me. And people go, wow, that's really cocky. No, it's not.
No, it's intentional.
It's intentional.
Yeah. You and I, we have so many similar philosophies, and it's like we've never talked about any of these things. I mean, we talked, today we talked about leadership and this whole process to sales and relationship building and giving your audience value, and even your approach to sending out LinkedIn invitations. I use the same approach. And
Good.
by the way, guys, if you want to connect with Steve, you click on his blue connect button. That's where you get the option to add a note. Sometimes you'll see profiles like mine, Steve, where it has follow instead, and you got to go to the more button. And then there's an option to
Right.
personalize invite or connect. But I use the same thing. Use the context. So if you saw Steve on the show with me today, mention that in your invitation. If you're a Jets fan, mention that in your invitation. If you're a bald guy, mention that in your invitation. Like make some type of a connection to make Steve smile. He's going to be more likely to accept it. And your screening approach is one that I use as well. When I get an invitation from someone I think that might be a good prospect, I'll reply back. And sometimes I'll do the hi, Steve, have we met? And I know we haven't met and we haven't met, but it prompts you to reply back and say, no, but I saw you on a live broadcast the other day. Or yes, we did. It was at that networking event last week. And I'm like, oh, brain freeze, forgot about that. But we're getting dialogue started. And we're talking here today, guys, about modernizing the sales process. And as we start to wind down the conversation, so many great nuggets that you shared with us here today, Steve. But do you want to leave folks with any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Yeah, so let me talk to the other side of LinkedIn is when you go out and try and connect with somebody. I know what it's like when people are trying to connect with me. I
Sure.
make it very relevant. I use the follow button and I use it in this respect. If I wanted to build a connection with you, I'll follow you first. I'll pay attention to what you're posting. I'll like it. I'll comment on it. And every single time I do one of those strokes, you get a notice.
Yep.
Steve Nudelberg followed you. Steve Nudelberg liked. Steve Nudelberg engaged. After a couple of days, you're going to go, who the hell is Steve Nudelberg?
Steve sounds very familiar. Why does his name sound? And then maybe that's what happened with me. Steve sounds familiar. And as we start to interact back and forth with each other, then I start to see more of your posts. And it's almost like you've created this magnetic approach, bringing people back to you without them even realizing
And
it.
I offer value, just like, whatever TV station people like to watch or whatever movies. If you follow me, I am constantly giving tidbits on how to get better, how to do better in sales, all very, very instructional type stuff delivered in a fun manner. So there's real value. There's reason to come back. There's reason to stay connected. And then if you follow anyone in our organization, we're all about that kind of content. And it's just not all that hard. We tell people it's really more about documenting who we are. Now, this is the biggest misnomer, and this is where I'll leave it. We hear this all the time. Oh, don't post that. It's not Facebook. Okay.
Oh,
Guess
gosh,
what?
yeah.
Guess what? If you're willing to post about who you are, that means personal. My son, this is a great story. My son's wife just gave birth. When she gave birth, he said to me, I'm going to take paternity leave. I said to him, what's a paternity leave? So he said, oh, it's I'm going to take 3 weeks. I was like, mind blown. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So when your mother gave birth, she had a C-section. I went back to work the next day.
Oh my
But
gosh. Yeah.
he posted it on LinkedIn, shared his journey on LinkedIn, got 300,000 views, got tons of interaction. So it's a conversation that you're starting by what your value system is. One of our values is our family. We're a family-owned business. We really enjoy each other. We respect each other, but we share that. We share friends and family, and that drives interest. So don't listen to all those people who say don't be personal.
Yeah. And there's so many people, and I'm like, what are you, the LinkedIn police? And it is all about relationship building, Steve. And I'm glad that you and I cross paths virtually. I hope to have the chance to maybe see you, on stage sometime, or when we're in the area of each other, maybe we can meet for coffee sometime. But I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all these great modernizing sales technique tips with us, as well as gems about bringing customer value. It's such a delightful conversation today.
Thank you. You're a great hostess. I can see why this show does well and why you do well. It's all about the smile. Nice job.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank our audience for watching as well. And whether you're watching it live or in playback, we don't know who you are until you self-identify in comments. So it really means a lot to us if you could just leave a quick hello or if you have any questions or thoughts about the show today, please drop them into the comments. It helps us to know that you're watching. And by the way, when you drop your comment in, other people can see that you're watching the show as well. And it helps to build up relationships with new folks and new audiences here on LinkedIn. And by the way, after we're done watching the broadcast, could you do me a favor? And that is this. As soon as the video is done playing, you're going to see a little share button at the bottom of it. If you could click on that share button and share it out on LinkedIn. If you have not yet posted this week, this month, or this year, this could be that LinkedIn post, and tell people something that you learned based on watching the conversation here today. If you could also tag Steve and myself in the comments, we'll be sure to see that notification and reply back to you. So on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you again for watching and wish everyone a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy, and make sure you mark your calendar to come on and watch the Daily Huddle. It's every weekday at 7:58 a.m. Is that right, Steve?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Awesome. We'll look forward to seeing it. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you all on LinkedIn. Have a wonderful day, everyone.